Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It.
All of us. We're going to start with the people from Bowie, our representatives from Bowie. We're going to start with the mayor of Bowie, Tim Adams, and next to him is Jarryd Hoffman. Jarryd Hoffman. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And we have the mayor pro tem, Roxy Ndebumadu. Did I do that right? Okay. We also have, I don't know whether Andre Gardner is here yet, but we have Joe Meinert. Raise your hand, Joe. He is with the Bowie Planning and Sustainability. And we do have someone coming to represent Blegay, who is our county council member. She is the county vice chair and represents District 6, which is my district. So Januari McKay will be coming shortly. The Honorable Ingrid Watson has been invited. She will be here shortly with District 4. She's with the Prince George's County Council. We have Randall Scott with the State Highway Administration. We're thankful for all of you to be here. The Honorable Kim Taylor, Maryland State Delegate. We have the Honorable Marvin Holmes, State Delegate. And we have also from someone from Bowie, we have Dufour Woolfley, Bowie council member, and the gentleman next to him, I think, is Michael. Oh, Mike, thank you for being here. We're glad to have you here. Okay, so I'm going to hand it to Ingrid Watson. The Honorable Ingrid Watson just came in. She is county council member, and she represents District 4, which is a lot of Bowie. So I'm going to turn this back over to Michael Bridges, and he's going to take it away from here.
Thanks again. I'm sorry. Michael, before we get started, I do want to make something clear to the audience and to everyone. Sure. Because we have so many council members here, we can't specifically talk about anything to do with city business because we have more than a quorum here. So we can talk in general about some of the things, but we can't really talk about specific city business because we would be violating the Open Meetings Clause. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that we can't get into the direct city business because of that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will ask questions and then you can answer to the extent that you feel comfortable. So, yeah. How about when we get to the statements from everybody? So again, thank you everybody for coming. We're here, Nate, I just wanted to set the stage for the discussion. This is a conversation that we like to have on a topic that's very important to everybody, traffic. Everybody in this room, it touches us, right? We're affected by it, and this conversation has multiple components. We wanted to talk about the educational component of it, so have people talk about what is the status of 301 from an objective perspective, and then of course we as citizens, we have our own perspectives of what's going on with 301. And then we also wanted to hear from some of the elected officials to the extent that it's possible for them to speak to it about what they think are potential paths for improving the traffic conditions on 301. So because 301 is a major sort of a roadway, it affects not only city, at the city level, at the county level, but also the state level. Everybody has sort of a hand in this. And I just wanted to read something and see how it resonates with people. A couple weeks back, there was a resolution that was put forth to try and talk about managing growth, which is related to traffic. And there was an exhibit in there that talked about the level of service for 301. And in particular, I'm going to read this and see what people think about this. So the roadways basically are graded, A through F, right? F being like worse, A being really good. And so F is considered, that grade of level of service F is considered to be unstable and unacceptable to most drivers, with oversaturation of vehicles, long signal cycle lengths, high levels of delays, and frequent signal cycle failures. I'm curious if that sort of wording resonates with people. How many people have experienced that on 301? I know I personally have. I think we currently have from parking planning an estimate that 301 is indeed, at least as of 2020, a level of service of F. And so what I would like, I think going forward, we set a number of questions ahead of time to the State Highway Administration to kind of talk about the details. How is the traffic measured on 301? And we're going to have them go through some of those questions a priori. And then afterwards, we'd like to hear from the rest of the panel what they feel is in their purview, what are they authorized to do in terms of improving things, and what their plans might be and suggestions for what could be done to improve traffic patterns on 301. So, having set the stage in that regard, I'd like to let you talk about, introduce, I guess, the
State Highway Administration. Yeah, I will give you a short statement later from Adrian Barlow, who is state delegate from District 23, which encompasses Prince George's County. But we're going to go straight to the State Highway Administration person, Mr. I think it is Mr. Randall Scott, and you have the floor, sir, because you have the overview of state highways.
Well, we already had a good assessment that much of US 301 receives a F rating, especially where it intersects major intersections. And so that goes without saying. Now, it is our desire that when we consider improvements to a particular highway, that's done through the state's, consolidated transportation plan. Basically, a 5-year document that outlines what projects the state will move forward. Now, the state does not independently
determine which projects are the priority projects. It's a collaborative effort. So from the state highways perspective, we get priority projects from each of the counties or major jurisdictions as to what projects they like to move forward. Obviously, the state does not have monies because some projects might even conflict with one another. It is not likely that all the projects that a local jurisdiction like Prince George's County or even the city of Bowie would put forward would be funded. But obviously, the projects that the state or the county or major municipality put near the top of the list does have a higher chance of being funded. If a corridor is not even listed as a priority project from the county, then the chances of it being funded independently is very low, almost zero. The only way that other projects can be done if a developer came in and in conjunction with a development improvement plan, sometimes local or private developers may make improvements. Sometimes they are required as part of their development. Other times they may, according to the way Prince George's County operates, even if an intersection is failing, they may be asked to contribute so much money to a transportation fund so that the county can pursue a collective project going forward. So the question with regard to 301 have come up in part because in looking at the latest consolidated transportation project listing, 301 was not listed. And as of right now, the state does not have an alternative as to what steps can be done to mitigate traffic at the major points that are distressing. And obviously, we would have to collaborate with the local elected officials and county officials to come up with a plan of action. The county has given us what their priority locations are, and obviously, it could be, and just looking at a Prince George's County perspective, locations associated with the Beltway around Medical Center Drive, around Maryland 210, supporting transit-oriented development are higher on their list. So the state, of course, is willing to work with county and local officials to bring projects along 301 on the list. And there are locations that we recognize need attention. For example, 301 from the split, where it's split from Maryland Route 5, that is, and Brandywine area, all the way to Maryland 228, Maryland 5, and Waldorf, is one of the most congested corridors along that area. And of course, other hotspots along 301 is from Maryland 3 US 50 to Maryland 214, and Maryland 3 from US 301 US 50 to the Anne Arundel County line. So we have identified that yes, they are severe congested locations along 301, both segments and at major intersections, but at this time there are no projects on the US 301 that have been listed for action on the state's consolidated transportation plan, which is done in conjunction with recommendations from the county.
Can you just mention a little bit about how, what improvements could be made if they were authorized and how that would actually affect the traffic?
Since I primarily work with the traffic office, my office is in Greenbelt, Prince George's County, we always periodically have to evaluate the volume of traffic along a given corridor to see what are the simplest ways to make improvement. And obviously we adjust traffic signal timing to try to move traffic along the highway in a more efficient manner. But it gets to the point where the volume of traffic just overwhelms the timing, as you described, the level of service. And then you get stuck in a balancing act. If you increase the amount of green time on the main corridor, then how long do people have to wait from the side street in order to enter? So nonetheless, we still look at traffic signal timing as one mechanism that we have to periodically adjust to try to make the system, though limited as it is, to operate as efficiently as possible. Another step that we take is sometimes, are there locations where we can prohibit movements? So for example, at Maryland 5301, the Shortcut Road, we prohibit left turns, both from a safety point of view as well as a congestion. So if there are opportunities to prohibit movements, that allows traffic to flow more freely. The caveat, though, is you got to make sure that if you prohibit movement from point A, people will find a way around, and you got to make sure that you're not going to create hazards or congestions on local residential streets, because people have figured out, oh, if I can go, down your street to go around this highway, I'm going to do so. Traffic is like water. It will find the least resistance method to get around. The other thing that we try to do is, when it comes to signal timing, we try to make it as least restrictive as possible. So there may be a heavy left turn volume location. Before we make it just exclusive left, we might try exclusive permissive, where you put the left turner up for a while, and then when it turns green, motorists still have the opportunity to make left if there's a safe gap. We have to back off, though, if motorists fail or to an extent that we cannot accept. makes it unsafe, and the crashes or increase as a result of giving them the freedom of choice. Now, in addition to signal timing, movement restrictions, and the way we implement signal timing, obviously another way to alleviate congestion is to add additional lanes. Maybe provide additional lanes is not only for through traffic, but sometimes if there's a left turn lane, if you put a double left turn lane, that could mean that the amount of time you have to service the left could be reduced and you can get more time to green. So those strategies. But there's many intersections, as you know, along 301 already have a double left, maybe an occasional triple left. So you get to the point where you just can't keep adding lanes. You got to look at grade separation. And so putting in interchanges, like the one that, one of the more recent interchange we put in Prince George's County is 210 at Kirby Hill, which there were 2 at-grade signalized locations, and they were removed, and you put an interchange in this place. And along 301 Maryland 5 corridor, for example, preliminary studies at one time suggested that interchange at Maryland 5 at Surratt's is needed now, as an example. But of course, interchanges are costly, and I'm not here, I don't set policy, so I can say my job is to implement what has been decided, by the elected officials, you folks, and what the land allows. There's another element, the federal government input, and the federal government input comes with regard to funding. Obviously, if we can get federal funding towards a project, that allows more of an opportunity to get more projects done and more efficiently. But sometimes that comes with strings attached. So for example, in Montgomery County, and you probably notice in Baltimore County, yeah, they can widen 95, but they might say have to be HOV lanes if you add additional lanes. And that gets into a philosophical discussion. Do HOV lanes favor the more affluent? Others provide or prefer a transit system. And so certain corridors look at bus rapid systems, light rail, subways as another means of, if you can get people off the road, to use other modes of transportation is another way of alleviating congestion. So there are a whole plethora of strategies that can be used, and the trick is often balancing out, so that when you put something in, that on balance is more effective with regard to moving traffic and safety.
Thank you. I know that there's some time restrictions here for some of the other elected officials, so I think we can go right to the discussion from, or the comments from the elected officials. I'm just going to ask these questions, and then when you make your comments, you can kind of respond to them along those lines. Mayor, did you have something you wanted to say before I ask the question? You have to go.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to make a couple of quick comments because I have to go and I'm first up. Gotcha. That's other thing I need to be at. But I think one of the things that was touched on, and I think that is so important for all of us to understand, is that we have a history of trying to work on 301. At one point there was money that was supposedly designated by Senator Peters and our delegates that was to go towards widening 301. At one point the money was set aside for the, I want to say, the southbound lanes, and we were supposed to come back and get the northbound lanes, but it died. We didn't get it. I think the one place I will go right now and say, we have some wonderful elected officials here. People who are really trying to fight and do things to make it better. But we have to understand, right now, they're pulling us completely off the list. And we've got to fight and make sure that our county puts that back on. That's who can push that. that, and working with the governor and working with our legislature, but we need the county to step forward and say, this is a priority for us. And so candidly, I'm saying our county exec and others need to make that a priority for our community. It needs to make it a priority for what's happening at 301, because it doesn't just affect those right here and just in Bowie, but it affects all of us in the county. You know, and I know one of the things we talked about before is balancing that trade-off between development and the congestion, the traffic. But I say to you this way, as we look at building and allowing things built along 301, even here in Bowie, I would rather residents have a place where they can go and shop right here in Bowie, because if we don't build the amenities and have those opportunities for them here, they're simply going to get in the car and drive up to Whitechapel or drive the other way. So we still end up with the traffic. So what I'd like to see is the county make this a priority. The county look at making sure that we can support our legislators who are trying to get this done for us. And make sure that we move forward. Because that's what it takes. It takes for us, as a concerted effort all together, to make it happen. Hey, thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
Mayor, before you leave, can you just comment on what you think your power is as a mayor in this problem? What you have the power to do and what you think you would like to try and do?
I think as mayor, the power I have is to make sure that I talk to you, the constituents, to make sure that we work with our legislature, we work with our county council, we work with particularly our county executive to put this on the list. Our power is limited. We can't make this happen, but we have to work with you to make sure we put the pressure on and make sure people understand that this matters to us. That's why I'm so excited about this forum. And I'm so excited about the people who are working to make that happen. So we have limited input, except to ask those who are our elected officials and our governor in particular to make sure we have an opportunity to make sure 301 is addressed. Thank you.
Yes. Before we go down the line, I don't want to be remiss and not read Adrian Raffo's statement. It's very short. He is a state delegate, House of Delegates, District 23. And here's his statement that he sent us by email. There have been preliminary discussions with a few members of the Prince George's delegation and members of the Anne Arundel County delegation. The goal is to move up 301 on the state's expansion list, including looking at what a temporary moratorium on development till there is a place, or reforming a work group. All right, so that's major.
So as Carol asked you to speak, the context again would be, tell us what you think you have the power to do, what tools you have in your toolbox, what's in your purview, and what you think you could do to help in this process.
Carol, may I go next just to speak to what the mayor mentioned about the county?
Absolutely, but I did see that Roxy's hand was up, so we'll have you, Ingrid, and then we'll go to Roxy. Go ahead, you can go.
Oh, well, thank you. And good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thank you for inviting me. This is a very important discussion. And as always, I appreciate listening to you all, and I thank you all for putting this together. And I just wanted to mention, in regards to the county, so not even 2 weeks ago, we had a discussion last week, as a matter of fact, and Secretary Wiedefield was there, and we shared our priorities. And the priorities come from the cities. So the municipalities share the priorities with the county based on what they would like to see. So a lot of the recommendations, and I pushed for specifically for Bowie to get 197 widened, because that's been on our list for so long. And 301 for sure, but it wasn't on the list. It wasn't something that the city was pushing. to make changes to, except for that intersection at 301 and widening 197. So I just want to say within my purview, what I get from the municipalities, which also includes Greenbelt and other cities, they share their priorities with me, and I share those on the list to be sent up to the state. And that's what I advocate on your behalf. So it starts at the local level, which is the city, and then comes to the county. Also, I work with the state. As a county official, I do work with the state, which includes the State Highway Administration, in regards to road improvements. So I offer, road improvements such as potholes. We ask them to pick up trash along the road. Any sort of improvements that need to happen, I make sure that I work with the state to make those things happen, specifically within my district. I also ensure the developers make the road improvements that they're supposed to make. So I keep a very close eye on what they're doing. Like Mill Branch, Mr. Chesley came before the council, the city council, just Monday night and explained all the different road improvements that he's responsible for. So I know along with the city of Bowie, I'll be watching to make sure those happen. South Lake developers had to make road improvements. They're still making those. And I know you've seen the traffic lights on 301 over with the Wawa and of course Central Avenue. So those improvements have been made, and we can constantly keep an eye on making sure those happen. And in regards to anything else that we do, like I said, it's really a partnership between me and State Highway Administration, and make sure I listen to what you all have to say and what you're sharing with me, and of course, the municipalities within my district. But because 301 is a state road, that purview lies within the state, we can only make recommendations based on what the budget allows and the state will pay for to do. As you can see, they haven't widened 197 yet. We've been asking for that for years. But if it comes up and they're able to pay for it and do that, then great. But there's many priorities that we've asked for. We've asked for Maryland 210, Maryland 4 Suitland Parkway, US 1 Baltimore Avenue, Maryland 223 Piscataway Road. So there are many different roads that the county has requested, because there's 9 districts here in Prince George's County. So I've taken enough time. I hope I've answered your questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to hear from the Honorable Roxy Ndebumadu. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much. Ndebumadu, for anybody who's curious, we were very, very close, and I appreciate the effort there. Good evening, everyone. It's really an honor to be here, and I'm very, very happy that we're having this conversation. So I have my laptop in front of me, not because I'm multitasking, but because I wanted to pull up the last letter that the city sent up to State Highway to support Councilmember Watson's comment. The last transportation list that we sent to State Highway was sent on August 28th, and 2 things stood out in particular for this discussion that I'm just going to read very briefly. Priority number 2, US 301 MD 197. Project planning was completed in 2007, and the project is ready to move into design and construction. Development pressures continue to mount in this area, including mixed-use development at Mill Branch Crossing project and a regional recreational park being planned by the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. This intersection provides access to many Bowie businesses and is at the heart of the city's downtown. As noted during the project planning study, increasing traffic volume will also create a permanent congestion bottleneck in the regional road network and potentially harm the local economy unless the interchange project moves forward. Improvements are needed to accommodate the existing and projected high volumes of traffic generated by continuous growth along US 301 corridor and to address existing traffic safety problems. Unfortunately, this critical project has been lingering on hold since 2007 for lack of funding. Traffic volume in 2022 was 64,200 average vehicles per day on US 301.
Let's Talk About It is here to communicate, educate, motivate, uplift, and inspire people all over the world. See you next time. Let's talk about it.